Hi, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm your host, TheaTouchton, and today I will be talking about promising young women. Before I get into that, because you guys are going to hate probably absolutely everything I have to say, because, you guys, I was so excited for this movie. I was looking forward to it, and I am not a person that, really gets geeked out about seeing movies in the theaters, but Promising Young Woman was a movie, I wanted to see, and I felt the hit of COVID that theaters are closing. I don't want theaters to close, but I'm totally I'll just wait for it to come on demand. Anyway, before I get into all that, currently my channel, because it's not monetized, makes $0 and 0 cents. It needs more watch hours. I need more followers for brand sponsorships. So if you guys can do me a favor, all of my links are below. Please hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Give this video a watch all the way through. Tell your friends. Tell people who aren't your friends. Tell Reddit. Tell your social pages. Get me this money, because if I'm doing this and making money, I'm not going to take a job from you hardworking Americans. I can just be myself, being disabled and talking about film, which I love to do. Anyway, let's get into Promising Young Woman. I promise, too, that I'm not going to make fun of Carey Mulligan for her looks or anything. I really don't feel like, obviously I didn't rate the full article of the Variety writer, because why? I have a life, but I do feel like he was trying to say that she wasn't pretty enough. He was just mainly trying to say he didn't understand why he felt like it was a better role for Margot Robbie than Carey Mulligan, because Carey Mulligan plays this role very intensely. I didn't really have a problem with how she played this role. I think the problem is with the story a little bit. Do I think it's the worst story ever? No. Do I think it's a pretty good story about rape culture? Sure. Do I wish it was a better story about rape culture? Do I feel like it's time to have a story that's a little bit more va-va-voom than that? Absolutely. Do I think that nobody else feels this way and that I'm probably going to have to be the person that writes this story? Yes. So keep an eye on everything and make sure you buy my screenplay about the cult and my sitcom called Millicent, because those are the stories that nobody seems brave enough to tell, but hi, I am. Anyway, Promising Young Woman. So it starts with, of course, these 80s businessmen. I mean, it's not really in the 80s, it's in present day, but they have all the glory of Patrick Bateman, I feel like. And they are looking at a drunk Carey Mulligan who was just kind of sitting very weird, her legs are turned inwards and you can see her underwear. And these guys are just kind of being like, oh, she's asking for it, which honestly, I don't know. I feel like the asking for it thing, just for all you filmmakers out there wanting to write about rape, let me tell you my experience about it. And maybe this is how other girls do not feel. Maybe my experiences are unique because I have lived such a freaking weird life. But anyway, so the. I've never once heard a guy say that I was asking for it. I feel like most of them be like, well, don't you deserve it? Or it's the kind of you can't be surprised. Asking for it is a little bit too right on the nose, And I feel like most men are very subtle with their misogyny. It's just like a dash of misogyny, like a little salty misogyny. They're not trying to ruin the whole soup by being misogyny, but they're gonna make sure that this ingredient in the soup is misogyny. So that's just my thing. I've never really heard the words asking for it, but I get it. We're trying to establish something. Anyway, this one guy is like, oh, I want to go ask her for help. So he takes her to his place, and he's got. I loved this detail. I thought this was very accurate, where he has kumquat liquor, which I don't know if you've ever had, but it's not very flavorful. It tastes like flat Sprite. My boyfriend once bought it at a party as a white elephant gift. It was very funny. Of course, this guy also has a roommate. Name me an abuser, I guess, unless he's a super rich guy, because there's always those abusers. But then I feel like most abusers aren't self-efficient, and that's why they need you to abuse, so they can really feel like they're getting the most out of their life. Anyway, he goes to rape her because his roommate's out of town, so no one's gonna notice him, and she's loses the drunk act completely and goes, what are you doing? Which, fierce goals. I wish I had the balls to do what Carey Mulligan was doing, her character was doing. Just going around freaking killing men for being rapey, and or if not, giving them a lecture and doing this whole ruse on them. I mean, the acting chops. This girl was going to be a doctor, but really, she is Juilliard material. She is Oscar worthy. I hope this film gets nominated for an Oscar. Didn't really see a film that rivaled it besides maybe Black Bear and Soul. Soul was pretty good. The Wolf Walker was pretty good too. Those would be my picks. Not that anybody asked, but in case you were wondering. Anyway, then we've got this cool shot of her with the jelly donut dripping down and then gets catcalled by construction workers. Honestly, I feel like I've been very seldom catcalled by those kinds of people. I must not be their type, but I often get honked at on a kind of street, which I think is way worse and way more scary because I'm always like, oh my god, am I in the middle of the road about to get hit that I'm being honked on? And it's like, no, they just like the fact that I have great big breasts. Anyway, I love the way that she handles it. She just kind of gives them like the Jenna Marbles face, but to a lesser extreme degree, where she just stares at them. And then we see her little notebook of where, like, my boyfriend decoded it. I didn't really understand at first because they don't really show the killings that she does. They only show the killings of her, and it's unclear if she even kills at all. But my boyfriend thinks that blue lines are the taught lessons and red means that they are killed. I think, honestly, I had a dream inspired by this, and if I have learned anything, if I was going to be a serial killer, which I am not, just so you guys know, I don't believe in being violent towards people. I don't think it's good. But I would not leave a notebook of any evidence of the things that I killed. Just in hindsight, I feel like that is the serial killer's rookie mistake. I mean, I guess they like mementos and you gotta keep track of it all because I'm sure murdering a person is intense on the psyche. Perhaps considering not murdering people. I mean, I guess she does kind of because she does blue lines. I'm assuming that the reds that she kills are because they don't stop anyway. My whole thing is that how men haven't been able to overpower her in her killing, or maybe she's very sneaky. We don't get all these details in the movie, and that's a wash because you know what the movie I wanted? I wanted some Quentin Tarantino Kill Bill action. I wanted this, like, feminist piece of, like, we have the guy that always goes around and, like, rapes women and then kills her. I wanted the rape victim killing back. And here's the biggest thing of all. Carey Mulligan is not even the rape victim. She's just, like, an observer for her friend who was raped. But we'll get to that part of the story a little bit later. I'm so disappointed. I mean, it's still a good movie, but the movie that I envisioned was better, and that's rough. What do I know? I'm just an indie filmmaker with like only 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, 4,000 on Instagram, 5,000 on TikTok, and I barely can get to 10 likes on anything. Anyway, Carey Mulligan's character, I don't even know her name. She works at a cafe, and she's not good with customers. And her boss, she's from Orange is the New Black, I forget her character's name, but she was like very big for the trans movement, and she's lovely. But sure, boss is like, yeah, somebody said they saw you at a bar looking really wasted, like kind of bad for business, but you know, she's friends with her boss, so nothing affects her, which I feel like is also kind of damaging because I feel like in the world of rape culture, guess what? When you're a rape victim, you're totally shut out from everything. Everything is isolating. The whole world hates you and doesn't care about your story. I think now maybe the world is changing more for that, but I've yet to see it fully. So anyway, Bo Burnham comes in. He's at med school and he's wondering why the hell Carey Mulligan is working here because she also went to med school. And he's like, oh, you should spit in my coffee because that was an awful question. And she literally does spit in his coffee. Honestly, it was so sexy and so disturbing and iconic. I loved that. It's probably my favorite bit of the whole movie is when she spit in his coffee and then, he drinks it. He drinks it. COVID could never. Anyway, then we have another one of her going with the guys and he's talking about her blowjob lips, which, like, technically any pairs of lips can be blowjob lips. All you gotta do is simply give a blowjob, man or woman. Blowjob lips, they transcend gender, okay? Anyway, this guy's doing cocaine. He doesn't like girls with plastic surgery. I find most of the men that I meet and talk to that are interested in me don't, which would make sense because I am kind of the opposite of a plastic surgery girl. I am very flabby, chunky, and full of flaws, and just rocking them, you know? Mostly because I don't have the money, and I don't know if I could justify paying for it. Just when I know too many people are like starving and there's so many great things out there that if I had money I could help with. And yeah, I don't think I could spend it on lip fillers. But you know, if you can, power to you. Hope it doesn't keep you up at night. Anyway, he shames her for wearing all the makeup, which is gross. I have a bunch of men who did that. My biggest abuser was like, hated that I wore lipstick and be like, oh, that reminds me of my aunt. And it was like, cool, well, I'm sure your aunt was a nice lady, you know? Like, I would never, you know, I'm never gonna say something about somebody's body. I guess my biggest thing is like, I will tell my boyfriend, I was like, hey, you should shave your hair to your like body hair to make yourself like have a fresh clean start, because your body is probably like working really hard hanging that old hair around and it probably can never be very clean. But that's my own OCD, and like if he doesn't do it, I'm not going to shame him for it or harp on it or make him feel bad about it. It's just like, I don't know, I would hope he would give me advice taking care of myself. And I feel like, and I wouldn't have told him that on the first time of meeting him too. We've been dating a year, and I feel like once you have hit kind of a comfort zone, then you can kind of start like offering advice on each other's bodies. And obviously it is up to the person who owns the body to accept it, but they don't have to change, and I'm gonna still love my boyfriend, hairy as he is, regardless. Then Carrie Mulligan fakes that she's passed out, and the guy gets mad that she's passed out. I've definitely had men like that. What is wrong with you is all I can say to all the men that have acted disgusting as we've talked so far, and we're only 12 minutes in. What's wrong with you? What happened to you? Have you considered seeking help? Do you realize you're the problem? So many questions I have for that type of man. If you would like to come on your podcast and defend yourself, I would love to pick the brain of the abuser, because I bet you I will win. Anyway, she does the switch again, which, so iconic. I love it. I want that switch brain. The music really helps the switch in this one, too. It becomes scary. And she just intimidates him to stop being the way that he is, and she does this pretty much every week. And my thing is like, will he change, or is he just gonna go out the next day and do it to another girl? Because that's what I think. I don't know if men can listen to women. I even feel like with my boyfriend, we've been dating for a year, and I feel like sometimes, you know, maybe he listens on the first go. Other times it's like I have to say things 5 times, and maybe I'm lucky. I don't know what it is with men. I don't know if women, if we have screechy voices that just make them tune us out. But yeah, can you tell I'm an angry feminist right now? I'm very angry. Because there's some things about these movies as a rape victim that bug me a little, but we'll get to it, and it's trying, and at least it's something. But I'm so tired of getting scraps from rape culture, because I was treated like a scrap when I was raped a bunch of times. So anyway, Jennifer Coolidge is so good. She's kind of dramatic in this role, but she's amazing. And they forgot her 30th birthday, but she doesn't care because she's Carrie Mulligan. But they got her a suitcase so that maybe she will leave their house because she's 30 and living with her parents. I kind of always feel it's very weird because we have such a society that we don't want to, like, oh, it's like now it's expected that you don't live off your parents and you need to be independent. And like, obviously I think that's good. I think it's a little bit weird to live off your parents indefinitely, right? But I also don't feel like there should be shame for being close to your family. Like, if you want to live with your family, sure, why not? And there shouldn't be any shame in that, even if it does save money. I mean, I think you should still be ambitious and not be like mooching off your parents where your parents have to work harder than you are working. But I understand that like financial situations are different. The economy was better for older folks. Yeah, unless you were in the 1930s depression, you've had it pretty cushy as far as I understand economics. But obviously have no degree in that, so don't quote me. Carrie Mulligan's character does not want a house, kids, or jobs. I think a lot of women are like that right now. I definitely want a house, and I definitely want a job. I don't want any kids, mostly because I should not reproduce. But if I was rich enough, I would definitely adopt an older orphan, at least from like ages 5 and up. I probably wouldn't want to get a teenager, but I would if I had enough money for college, or if I was like, are you okay with not going to college, and I can kind of teach you what I know and try to put you in some classes that are cheaper, because college seems like a huge scam to me, and the way college treats this whole case, you'll see what I mean. Anyway, Bo Burnham comes back, and he's like, 1 coffee, hold the spit, which I thought was cute. Bo Burnham is pretty good. Carrie Mulligan is like, oh, did I give you a fake number? That doesn't sound like me. And Bo Burnham is like, well, maybe you're not interested in me as a date, but how about a friendship where I just pine for you? And then he was like, hey, and if I'm ever getting too piney, you can just, we can say, euthanize the homeless, date my mom is safe words. He's like, I liked you in medical school. I really want to go out with you. And never in my life, I think, have I, besides like the weird foreign men on Facebook, beg for me to go out with them like that. Am I doing it wrong? Should I be that desired? I feel like it often just kind of happens, but maybe girls like to be begged for. I would definitely feel like there's something wrong with this dude for begging for me. So maybe dude sensed that and I've never done that. But I guess in high school I had one guy who was begging to go out with me and I didn't really like him and I even agreed to go out with him and that was on me. Sorry, Trevor. Anyway, he agrees to go on a date. And Bo Burnham is pretty good. He's pretty good in this. Sometimes most comedians, like John Mulaney and Dickinson, they're rough. They're not that great. I like John Mulaney. I don't like that he has a cocaine problem or whatever, but he wasn't a good actor. There's a lot. I don't know if Adam Sandler is a good actor. I think they can be funny, and but that doesn't necessarily make them good at acting. It's very interesting. Obviously, this is also my opinions. Some of you might have loved John Mulaney and Dickinson. I didn't care for it. But anyway, Bo Burnham in this, he is good. Bo Burnham is an actor. Bo Burnham is very talented. Anyway, at the end of the date, Bo Burnham tries to take her up to his apartment. Oof, oof, oof. Rookie mistake. She is immediately mad at this because it does kind of suck. Because sometimes I would just like you to get to know me and I don't want you to be like, okay, I did the work of getting to know you, now you owe me sex. That's terrible. Stop thinking like that, men. Have I definitely gone to bed with somebody for the very first date? Yeah. Have I liked that I've done that? No. Have I felt socially obligated to do that? Yes. And I hate it. And I don't want to shame girls who like casual culture and feels like it's working for them. That's great. Part of me feels like you're trapped in a cult for thinking that, but to each its own, I'm not trying to kink shame you. I just feel like it's not healthy to do that. I feel like these things should take time. It's safer. There's STDs for a reason. There's pregnancy scares for a reason. Opening your body is a literal like energy and hormone exchange, and I think that it should be treated a lot better than I was pressured to. So I'm kind of doing this message of like, hey, if you don't want to sleep with somebody, boy or girl, don't do it. You shouldn't feel offered. You don't owe them your sexuality, and there's nothing wrong with you for not like giving it up. And I don't feel like you should be called a prude. I think some things are just happening way too fast on our scale, and I think it's a result of these years and years of puritanical repression. But I'm over it. So choose your own repression if you want. Anyway, she is pissed and she's just gonna go home and she's like always the same, and then somebody kicks a can, I think it's her, and she just wants to take it slow. But she ends up finding out about the group of people who knew Nina, the girl that she is trying to avenge, her best friend, and she finds that they're in town, and one of them is Allison Brie. So she gets Allison Brie drunk, and I gotta give it to Allison Brie. I've been looking so much for her, like, when does she sound like Diane from BoJack? Because I'm obsessed with BoJack, and yes, I will be reviewing it very soon, probably. And she has never really sounded like Diane. She was like, she did something that disguises her voice. However, in this one, she sounds like Diane, and I think it's because she's drunk and whiny, and that must be like her Diane effect. Anyway, loved it. She argues in this that feminists are more likely to do anal. I agree with that. I don't really like anal. It scared me every time, and every guy that has kind of pressured me into anal, I feel like didn't know what they were doing and wasn't going to coach me and just was going to kind of like stick it in, and it didn't matter if they ripped up my butthole. Again, what is wrong with men? Seek help. Anyway, she also argues that, oh, men want this good girl, which I do think they do. They want, like, a good girl to everyone else, but an absolute freak, but solely for them and their dick. But meanwhile, they're going to go out and, like, have sex with other people. I also just want to preface that, like, I understand that this isn't all men. I know there are so many good men, most of them gay, that are out there and are amazing. And I just don't want you to feel ashamed that I'm talking about men, but to just preface, like, of, like, not all men all the time. You know, it's a mouthful. As a woman, I have to work twice as much harder for half of what you have. Give me a break. We're just going to use the general term of men. And if you don't think you behave like this, hopefully you're not living in a delusion where you actually do, but you're in such self denial, then, you know, ignore what I'm saying. But if you do behave like this, really, really consider getting some help. I would probably recommend therapy, and honestly, probably starting with some of going to like learning about unlearning abusive behaviors and probably sexual addictions. Yeah, seek that help, baby. Anyway, Allison Brie argues that no one believed Carrie Mulligan because she would sleep around, and it's like she's the crying wolf. And I definitely feel like that happens. It's like once you break, I mean, to be honest, people don't believe women ever. I mean, I think it's changing now, and people are saying they believe women. I kind of feel like it's a trendy hashtag. I'm very skeptical. I've been burned by the world, clearly, and I'm kind of like, I don't think anybody does. I go around with the assumption that usually they don't, and here we are. But Allison Brie argues, she's like, well, don't get blackout drunk and expect people to be on your side, and then spills the wine. And it's so interesting, like, I do feel like there is that, and there is some common sense of like this, of like, we do need to let girls, because there's so many role models of like girls. I'm watching Looking for Alaska right now to review it for my podcast, right? Alaska's character basically just gets really drunk, and there's so many characters, like all of the Skins characters. There's so many characters in my life that were like alcoholics, and their alcoholism was never addressed healthily. And I feel like we do need to say, like, girls, be careful. Some of these boys are like tanks. They've been on protein diets because they were in heavy contact aggressive sports. Don't let them shame you that you can catch up. If you want to stop at 2 drinks because you've got a nice buzz, feel that buzz. Do not feel the need to get blackout drunk to like prove yourself to be cool, that you're one of the boys, because that's so dumb. Honestly, at the rate that men are raping women and behaving towards girls, do you want to be one of the boys? You know? I think being one of the girls is just fine. Obviously, too, if you don't want to be a boy or girl either, who friggin' cares? Do whatever you want. But yeah, I just want to. I feel like there's not enough messages out there of like, hey, maybe you don't have to do this thing. So I'm going to be the message that says, hey, maybe you don't have to get blackout drunk. But I also think if you're a boy, it still is the responsibility. Just because someone is blackout drunk, that means you take care and respect that girl and help her get home safely. People too need to be like, oh, this girl's blackout drunk, she's ruining my party vibes. And it's like, stop. Somebody's life is more important than you having a good time. So go get that person help, and then party the next time, right? There's always going to be another party. You are going to party until you are 90 years old. It is not the end of the world. If somebody is sick, go seek help, and it'll be a story, and you can feel like a freaking hero. Honestly, you could be a hero, and you can make friends, and you can trauma bond, and you can teach somebody how to handle alcohol better, and maybe get some person some help, and actually make a difference in this world. Anyway, Carrie Mulligan's character is like, oh, Allison Brie, you haven't changed at all. And then she leaves, and she gives this guy money and sets up Allison Brie's character to get raped. And then Allison Brie's character can't remember anything because she drank so much, and she leaves all of these voicemails. And it's really messed up. And I kind of hate that she went on a vengeance kick with women, and I also hate in a lot of these like rape culture movies, it's like, oh, even though man is mostly most of the problem, and most women wouldn't even act like this if men weren't the problem, because women have been conditioned to take a second step to men all their life. Men are the leaders and the women have followed. That has been, like, I think the most message that has been given out for the long time to women. And I always like in these movies, it's like, no, we're not going to just talk about the men. Also, we're going to make sure that we punish the girls too, because we don't discriminate in gender. And it was like, I just want a movie where just the man gets it, and we don't have to hate a girl to understand that the man gets it. I do feel like, though, that obviously Carrie Mulligan's character is a very angry person and hates anybody who led to it, and Allison Brie character, you know, was sort of part of the problem. It's hard because it's like, I don't know if all of these individuals are the problem or a result of a society, and like obviously you can choose to be different from your society, but I will give them that it is freaking hard. And it's not to justify it, but it is kind of like, I mean, why, how can you expect someone to do better in a world which doesn't reward better, in a world that says, yeah, it's okay to rape people, you can still be fine, you can still go make millions of dollars and be on TV, and it's okay to abuse women, right? Like, this is the messages that we have given. So if somebody is choosing to act in accordance of those, I kind of find it hard to 100% blame them, because, well, you didn't know any better, right? Like, you obviously know that it's wrong. I hope somewhere in their heart they can feel it's wrong, but I usually feel like people going in those situations, people who are rapists and abusers, often are struggling with feelings, often have like sociopathic and psychopathic tendencies. So, but the world is breeding them. The world is saying, hey, if you don't have any feelings and you can be a psycho and sociopath, you will succeed. I can't count to you so many times on Tumblr where I blogged, like, I wish I didn't have any feelings, and this kind of, like, hate for feelings. But you know what? F all that nonsense. I would take back all of those reblogs in a motherfucking second. Your feelings make you powerful. Your feelings are what connects you with this earth to other people. You having feelings is what makes you strong, and don't let any other a-hole ever tell you otherwise. And if you're not having feelings, you better figure out how to get some, because the world is better with them, I promise. It is so much better to feel things than to be numb. And I ask any numb person, they will tell you. We all just think that what we don't have is better, because I think that's like part of being human is longing or whatever. But stop it and be grateful and feel everything, and live life to the fullest. Anyway, then Carey Mulligan's character continues to be a little bit creepy, and she picks up this high school girl by saying, oh, she's a makeup artist for this band called Wet Freaks, which, like, the name, but you know what? I mean, at this point, with all the rapper names, I can't even think of one, but I feel like there's one called, like, Little 69 or whatever, and, like, most of them, sure, there's a band called Wet Freaks. I'll buy it. Anyway, there's an all-star cast in this movie. Laura Dern is the dean of college, and Carey Mulligan goes and sees her and calls out. She was like, oh, you let this happen to Nina. And even Alexander Monroe, the guy who raped her, he gave a nice talk, and you say that he's a nice guy and very smart, and he was like, Nina was covered in bruises and handprints, but you don't remember Nina, but you do remember Alex Monroe. And this scene was very good. I honestly felt like it is very interesting, right? You know the name Harvey Weinstein. Can you name me any of his victims, right? Can you name all these people? You know the abuser's name. They do all the stuff and they get the fame, right? And it's not even that. I don't think these victims want the fame. They don't want to be remembered as the guy who raped them, whatever. They don't want that name even around them, having to even think about that memory that is now going to be on the forefront of their brain for life. I mean, I guess it probably won't be for life. There's ways to, like, manage it around, but I mean, it is damaging. It psychologically changes you, and I cannot believe that it is 2021 and people are getting raped every day in America, a country that is supposed to be safe, let alone all around the world. So it's utterly disgusting. I can't understand it. There's so many other cool things besides sex, and I am frankly disgusted. I'm disgusted that I've been raped over 5 times and probably had, like, 20 near misses of where at the last minute I managed to, like, get out of the car and run, and yeah, like, I mean, it's insane. I am disturbed, and I have seen it with my own eyes, and people, even my aunt sometimes will say to me, she's like, I don't understand what you mean that women don't have it hard, and immediately all of those rape flashbacks flood to me, and I'm like, well, I'm glad you don't have those, but from my personal experience, something's gotta fucking change. Anyway, the dean says, oh, there wasn't significant evidence, because there never is, isn't there? There's never enough to qualify. That's why I don't even bother to report half of mine, because I'm like, what am I going to say, right? The police belong even to a good old boys club. Are they even going to listen? And I know a bunch of people now are like, you should report it the first thing, but then it's, like, hard to talk about and open up and talk about the thing that just happened to you, and it's hard to process, and lo and behold, you get any of the details wrong, you're going to be the one in trouble, and it's just terrible. Like, I mean, I do advocate for, I think, getting therapy that is trained with dealing with rape victims is probably very important. I didn't really get that in my life. Most therapists I go to didn't ever even want to talk about my rape, wouldn't even touch it, which is, I think, sad, because I think that is probably the biggest underlying root for most of my mistakes was like, and most of my like panic disorders comes from being raped so young. I was molested as a freaking baby, if you guys didn't know, and then I was raped again at 4, and then I had a bunch of sexual abuse at 13. I'm pretty sure one of my stepdad's friends tried to molest me and a friend when I was 14. A couple of other things happened at 16 and 17. Again, I got raped at 22. I had a bunch of attempts at 23. I got molested again at 24. So far, 25 is going really good. I mean, I definitely had a friend try to make a move on me when he knew I was in a relationship. So please don't turn a blind eye anymore. Please acknowledge that, like, this is going on and this is a serious issue. Honestly, to me, I think this is the most important issue, and you can come for me. I understand that race and gender norms are also very big, but I think if we fixed rape culture, you'd see a lot of changes in those. I really promise you. Anyway, they say that they get 1 or 2 a week rape calls at a college campus, which is disgusting. You're gonna $100,000 to get raped, right? $100,000 for a 4-year experience to get raped, and there's not a healthy way to deal with it in a bunch of colleges. And they're all worried about ruining a young man's life. That's all it is. It's all about the man's life, but they never think about, like, the minute that girl is raped. Sorry, Milo is even crying because he doesn't like the fact that people are raping people. But the minute that girl's raped, her life is kind of ruined, at least for a couple of months. At least going through the treatment for that and healing of that is so hard. And it is hard not only emotionally, but physically. I can't stretch in certain places. I immediately cry and they feel painful because I have rape trauma memories stored in them. How about freaking that? I mean, I am appalled at the way that we treat it. And I know I'm going off, and I know I'm saying a lot of things, and I know they are not all cutesy and well put together, but I am angry. I am so mad, and I could cry, honestly, right now. I could cry through this whole thing. I could cry forever if I let myself. But the way that we do rape culture, because it is so fixable, it is so easily fixable, and we choose to say, no, it's not, when it is. It freaking is. If you want all the answers, pay me some money and I'll fucking tell you. Oh, you're probably going to get some of them for this. Anyway, Carey Mulligan then divulges to Laura Dern's Dean character that she picked her daughter up at school and left her at a room with some boys. And then the dean panics and tries to call, but of course Carey Mulligan has her phone because this bitch is crazy and prepared. Anyway, she's like, oh, your she's a young girl. I wonder if she'll look so young to the guys. And that's the thing. It's crazy to me, too, of, like, men are like, yeah, 16-year-old, it was illegal, but I did it. Like, or even the whole world of, like, Epstein and everything is just, what? Like, why on earth? I mean, I look at myself when I was 12, and I was not the epitome of sexy. I was so figuring out myself because no one is there for 12-year-old girls. We need more programs that help teenage girls because they are so left behind, I feel like. Hopefully someone will do something. I'm always here to help. If you need help, I'm here, I am here. Anyway, then Laura Dern is like freaking out and she's like, look, you're right. I know how easy it was, and it's like, and Carey Mulligan just says this very powerful thing. She's like, it does feel different when it's someone you love, huh? And like, is that all it takes, you guys? Really, we are so devoid as empathy as humans that it has to happen to somebody that we know personally, because I've cried. I've literally lost hours of my day because I think about all the girls that rape is happening to. Even now, like, I'm getting choked up just thinking about it because I cannot. Maybe my heart's too big. Maybe I am, like, really, truly unique in this. But I mean, no one deserves to go through it. No, absolutely no one. There is no reason for it. There's no benefit to the rape thing. Honestly, the only thing that I could say is I was already a good public speaker before I was raped. If anything, my rape hindered my confidence to public speak. And yeah, I mean, there's nothing good has come out of it. And I understand that there are optimists that can spin and be like, I once had a girl Instagram message me that the rape was the best thing that ever happened to her, and I felt fucking sorry because I was like, that's such an unfortunate way to look at it. I mean, like, I'm glad that she is finding her power through that, and I don't want to shame women for finding their power, but, like, to me, I can't ever even say that. I can say that that is one of the most disgusting things. In a way, to me, it is worse than murder because it is almost like a death that you have to keep on reliving. Anyway, Carrie Mulligan comes clean and says, "Nope, I didn't do that. Actually, she's like, I don't have much faith in boys. She's at this diner. Your daughter's kind of an idiot, Laura Dern. But who needs brains when you're gorgeous, though, right?" And oh, it's so weird because it's like Carrie Mulligan's character has a great cause, right? But it's also, she says some kind of messed up crap that isn't good, right? Even to make these people feel this. I mean, and maybe that's the thing. Sometimes I think of like, oh, if I could just, or I don't really want to personally abuse my abusers, but if my abusers could go through the abuse I went through, would it change them? And honestly, I don't think it would. I think often a lot of people are abusive because they were abused. I don't think people can learn from this sort of like tough love. I mean, I think some people got to come to the reality of like, you abused somebody and it was messed up and you wrecked their life and you need to take responsibility for it in some way. I prefer cash incentives. That's what I think. I think honestly, once you rape somebody, it should be like freaking alimony. It's not that you pay them a lump sum. You pay them over time so that every month you have to remember that you did that to somebody because that's what they want. Obviously, it's what the victims want. If they just want your lump sum money right ahead, makes sense. But I honestly do. I feel like if you're raped, you should have to be paid by the rapist for the rest of your life because Lord knows that's what you're going through as a rape victim. I even hate to use the term rape survivor, even though it is true. You're more of a survivor than a victim. Or I don't want to give anybody more fuel to rape somebody because I feel like boys just look for it sometimes, or rapists just like look for the way to do it, you know, look for a thing of like, oh, well, won't this make you stronger? I don't want to give anybody any fuel. I want to just tell you it's terrible and there's no excuse for it and there's nothing good comes out of it, right? And this doesn't mean for rape victims that it's all hopeless for you, because it's not. You're strong and we need your voice more than ever, and your testimony is going to make sense to other girls and you're going to be able to spot it and save other people. Lord knows that I have, honestly, and even if it's just a couple of people, dude, that's a couple of freaking people that would have been raped. And I mean, my goal, I want to build a world. I would like to die in a world where there were no rapes in a whole year. I want to live in that world. I want to make that world. I believe that world is possible. So please hang in there. Don't let the rapist steal your freaking life from you too. I wasted too much time thinking that. Anyway, then Carrie Mulligan's character, my boyfriend and I couldn't figure out if she was sleeping at the wheel on purpose or to get this man who was yelling at her, or just because she's just like having a mental breakdown. But anyway, this man yells at her and she breaks his car and is like crazy about it. And then Bo Burnham is like trying to date her, and then she like lies about working late at a movie. And then she's at the bar with this one guy, and he is like, "Oh, are you okay with walking? The Uber surge prices are crazy," which is, and he's like also lives with his parents, which is just like, it's unfortunately usually is that dude who's the raper. From my experience, a lot of abusers come from that background, and it is sad. I mean, there's a bunch of abusers who are very successful and come from that background. I guess it doesn't really discriminate, but you know, I'm so disappointed at women being treated like they're worth nothing, you know, because they are worth so much. And I'm sorry to any man who can't see that. Anyway, Bo Burnham sees her leaving with the guy, and whew, it's a little humiliating and very embarrassing. And you know, but also I was wondering when this would happen, and I would think that when you were dating somebody that Carrie Mulligan's character would have given this up, but I understand there's something definitely going on with her psyche. Then the guy that she was gonna go home with, that wasn't Bo Burnham because Bo Burnham is done. He's like, "Oh, you're not even that hot," which I can't even count to you. I can't even retell you how many men have slept with me and then critiqued my physical being, and it's like, I think then there's something with you, wrong with you, that you're sleeping with somebody that you think is ugly, that you don't like, you know, that you feel the need to say something with. I definitely think too that some men get off on like criticizing women, which like, I pray for you, you soulless fuck. Anyway, I also don't understand how Carrie Mulligan's character survived this. She must be super freaking strong, because it's like, I feel like most of these men are very violent. But I guess my boyfriend argued that, oh, she's going after, like, the nice guy who isn't really going to be like that. And I'm like, I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of nice guys who have hit me in the freaking face, who have hurt me more than I can imagine. I was like, I think every human is even more capable of violence if they feel pushed. And usually, I guess men feel really pushed when you say no to their penis. Anyway, then Carey Mulligan's character targets the lawyer who helped the boys and threatened Nina until she dropped her case. And I love the shot where the plants are dead behind her. Oh, that was some good filmmaking. That was a good filmmaking choice. Woo-wee, it was some good stuff. Anyway, the lawyer was like, hey, I had an epiphany. I had a psychotic episode. We had pressure for my job to settle out of court, but that was 7 years ago. And he's like, I don't forgive myself for any of this. And Carey Mulligan pays the hitman, which is insane. How does she have all this money? It's really from her coffee shop. I guess she's saving the money because she's living with her parents. But, like, hitman, I know because I looked it up, because here's a fun fact about me, also a terrible fact. When I was really suicidal, I couldn't figure out how to do it myself, so I was looking into a hitman to kill me for me, and a hitman was $3,000, and I was like, well, I guess I'll just live. So thank you, hitman, for being so expensive. You've saved my fucking life, I guess. But anyway, she pays the hitman even though she doesn't send him in. Like, oh my goodness. But she then goes and asks Bo Burnham if they can try again, and she's like, I can't explain. I wish she would have explained to him, though. And she's like, I understand that the fedora guy was unforgivable, but she just misses Nina, and that she misses Bo Burnham, and Nina was her best friend. For a long time in the movie, I thought Nina was her sister the way that she was acting, but I get that it's her best friend, and I kind of believe that Carey Mulligan's character had a lesbian crush on Nina. Maybe it's hard. I haven't had, I guess, that many fulfilling girlfriend relationships where they would, like, legit kill for me. I feel like I'm doing female friendship wrong, and I need to make more girlfriends. Anyway, Bo Burnham says that Jennifer Coolidge is extremely hot, which is true. Jennifer Coolidge, you are extremely hot. And that Carey Mulligan then is like, oh, I think she likes you more than I do. And then I made a bet with my boyfriend in this movie. I was like, Bo Burnham will sing, and he's like, nah, then he's not gonna do it. And then he does sing in the little convenience store. So if you want to win some money, and you listen to this podcast first, even though I think you should watch the movie and then listen to this, but whatever. Anyway, Bo Burnham says that he's falling in love with her, and then Alison Brie comes in and wrecks it all and says, hey, there's a tape of Nina's rape. And Carey Mulligan explains that nothing happened to Alison Brie's character. She just wanted her to think that it happened, which is really messed up. And Alison Brie is like, okay, never contact me again, which is fair. But the fact that they didn't give Carey Mulligan and Nina the tape when it was first out, when they knew they needed proof, is really, really messed up. That I almost understand. I really almost understand. I, too, have been that angry at the world for other women. I understand it. I really, truly do. And then I think the worst part of it all, the kick to the freaking stomach when you heard Bo Burnham's voice on the tape. Oh. And then Carey Mulligan, she confronts Bo Burnham, and she's like, I'm going to send this to everyone. And Bo Burnham's like, don't, it's going to ruin my doctor career. Then we both won't be doctors. And that does not help. That is not the thing he should have said in that situation. But he argues that he was just an innocent bystander. But I don't know, to film it, to be there, to witness, and to see somebody that's passed out like that. I don't even think I could watch somebody have group sex, because I would be worried about their inner thought process that I couldn't understand. So don't invite me to a swingers club, I guess. But anyway, then Carey Mulligan pretends to be a stripper and has a necklace that is a broken heart. Oh, the cinematography, the metaphor, the symbolism. And the broken heart necklace says Nina. So then she's like pouring all this vodka into all of these bachelors' mouths because she goes to the bachelor party of the rapist as he's getting married, because of course he gets to find love and happily ever after, as most rapists do, I am assuming. Anyway, she drugs all the vodka and water. Great casting of Schmitty from New Girl as the rapist supporter. Anyway, he's drugged. She goes to the rapist, and he asks her what her name is, and she says Nina Fisher, and the rapist freaks out, of course, because he knows what he freaking did. He knows. They always know deep down, whether they want to admit it to themselves or not. They cover themselves with lies, but they know in their gut what they did, and they're just going to keep it a secret to themselves. I know these guys. I know these motherfuckers. Anyway, he's like, oh, she's dead. And he's like calling for his friends, but they can't hear him because he's passed out. It's really scary. It gets very horror movie like. And Carrie Mulligan explains that she had to drop out, that they were both graduates at the top of their class, and she had to drop out to take care of Nina because she was so messed up from her rape, which is what freaking happens. And I almost think they know that happens. They don't care that it happens. None of these people, even if they paid, I don't think any of them probably feels an ounce of remorse, and probably still at the end of this, the rapist will always probably walk away feeling like the victim. And it's sick. And I don't know, we haven't done enough psychological studying on that, but we ought to. We really ought to. We ought to be giving anybody who is convicted for rape in prison, anybody who's even been charged, we ought to be psychoanalyzing the crap out of their brain and working to understand and fixing this, because this is a motherfucking problem that doesn't need to be a problem, and I think can be fixed. Anyway, then she talks about something that we kind of briefly talked about before, but I think is so powerful, I want to say it again, of where Nina heard the rapist's name all the time and not hers. And I don't really feel like this was the end monologue, but also I know anytime you've had to confront an abuser, whatever you plan in your head is never the way it goes. There's always new stuff that feels just important but isn't actually what you were trying to say. Oh, it's so bad. But anyway, then it sucks, and it's kind of a big twist of the movie because so far we've been following Carrie Mulligan's character around, and then we end up following the rapist because he suffocates her with the pillow. Because she did try to kill him with a knife, which was pretty bad, and she did like handcuff him, and he like broke out of the handcuffs. My boyfriend didn't really like this because he was like, how did he even do that, and how did she get away? And I mean, I think too, given the way the movie ends, is that she kind of knew this was going. She wanted all of this to happen because this was going to be the only thing that would convict him. Because unfortunately, we won't send people to jail or a psychiatric hospital for rape, but we will send them to jail for murder. Anyway, Schmidt comes in and is like, don't worry, what happens on tour will stay on tour. And the rapist is crying. And honestly, I just didn't really love the character choice. But I guess that's true because my biggest abuser was a big crier too. So they are sometimes these like soft doughboys where they just cry all the time and think all of these like controlling thoughts because I think they're just so miserable inside. But honey, if you're that miserable inside, all you can do, it's on you to fix it. It is not anybody else's problem. It is you. You really got to go get the help. You really do. Anyway, he killed the stripper at his bachelor party, and Smitty is like, oh, don't worry, it's not all your fault. He's like, it's an accident, even though it was totally not an accident. He totally killed Carrie Mulligan's character on freaking purpose. But this is what the rapist hears all his life. He's surrounded by people who tell him it's not your fault, which maybe then I shouldn't be so hard on the people who were so critical to me. Even though it isn't that the way. I feel like with women, it's like any little mistake you make, you hear about it tenfold for the rest of your life. And any man mistake, it's like, don't worry, buddy, it was a mistake. It was an accident. No one's going to go to jail. No one's going to find out. You're not going to get in trouble for this. And as a woman, it's like, well, you used up your one mistake. You could never make a mistake, and you used it. So anyway, then they get rid of the body by burning it, and they stand around and smell her burning things, and they don't really have a reaction to it, I guess. I think maybe the rapist had his nose covered, but I don't know. I wouldn't have stood there and smelled the body ashes, which is really messed up, but it's pretty crazy. And then I was worried that they were going to pin it on Bo Burnham's character, but I also kind of wanted them to because I thought he was kind of really shitty at the end. It's also terrible how many shitty people there are in the world. We really ought to be working on our morals, people, if we could just stop obsessing about likes and fame and worry about what's on the inside in our souls. Maybe things would be better. But anyway, the police go and question Bo Burnham, and he says that she was, Carrie Mulligan was mentally unstable, and he lies about where she went, and I wish that he at least told them the truth. I wish that he had said, that would have been the thing to redeem, is that he should have said, okay, yeah, I gave her the address of this bachelor party, right? And then he could have been cleaned, and I would have forgiven him, so I'll never forgive you, Bo Burnham. I know it's his character, but I think it's more funny if I just call him Bo Burnham. But I'll never forgive you, Bo Burnham, for doing this. That was terrible. Anyway, they're blaming it on a suicide. Wow, great. Ugh. But then Carrie Mulligan did a big old twist-a-maroo, and she tells somebody, she's a text automated, or she like either had a friend text it. I'm unsure of how she did it. It's some tech nonsense I will never understand, but it was amazing. And she texts Bo Burnham at the wedding, and she's like, "Oh, you didn't think this was the end, did you?" And the cops show up on the wedding day, and because she sent the other half of the necklace to a friend, and like the letter to the lawyer that of what would happen if she ever went missing, and then he told the cops. So the cops bust the rapist finally, and they arrest the rapist, and Schmidt's character runs away. And I don't know what happens to Bo Burnham. I'm assuming that the tape leaks out and it's all ogre for him. So honestly, thinking about it, since I just reviewed it, and honestly kind of saying it more out loud, I mean, I was kind of disappointed in the movie because it did still kind of feel a little male gazy. It didn't feel as feminist as I wanted it to be, but it's still a very powerful piece. I'm still glad it's a movie that is made. I wish there were more movies with feminist messages, and I guess it's kind of my job to create them. So if you want to see that, please donate to all the links below. Please keep supporting my channels, because I think film is a great medium to start the change in the world, and I'd love to cast people who are rape victims and let them know life isn't over, and acting can be such a cathartic way to escape from rape symptoms. So I hope you guys learned a lot from this. I hope you are actively speaking about rape culture. If you ever need help or a listening ear and you want to talk about it, I am not a licensed therapist, but I am a relationship coach and a life coach and a lifestyle coach, and I have experience, and I can always be a friend. So if you need that, I want you to know that I'm here. There are obviously numbers. I haven't had an amazing experience with Rain. The crisis hotline for suicide is fine. I don't love it. None of these things are up to par. We've got a lot of work to do in the mental health department personally, and I know suicide and all of these thoughts are all brought in isolation, and the rapist, they want you to feel alone. And I just want you to know that unfortunately you are not, right? Unfortunately, there are so many rape victims out there, but we are here to support you and each other, and you're going to get through this. There are so many other happy things that even now, my rape matters so much less to me than it did when I first found out about being molested at 1 and raped at 4 at 13. My family wasn't even going to tell me, you guys. I had to figure it out myself. Like, just the fact that people, like, just didn't know what to do is mind-boggling. And that, I'm only 25, so it's not that many years ago. So we have a long way to go, but don't give up on this world yet, because it needs people like you to fight for a world where there's not going to be rape. And I know I'm getting preachy, but oh, this is so important. Thank you to the creators of Promising Young Women for making this and giving me kind of a chance to speak, kind of a four-way. I want more films like this. I want them to go even deeper. My boyfriend also said that this movie felt like it had a way bigger budget than it ever planned to have, when it could have been done pretty cheaply because there wasn't a lot of it. But I don't know. It's still powerful, and I know that it's had an impact on a lot of women, and that's what we need. We need films that are advocating for stronger women, even if they're not all of these like perfect characters, which is kind of a relief, right? Because I feel like women have always been expected to be perfect, but you don't have to be perfect, and there is hope. All my links are below. Always feel free to contact me. Please like and subscribe if you got anything out of this, and if you want me to touch on any other stuff about this thing, I'm ready to speak on this. I'm ready to end its abuses, and I don't care what happens to me or if people don't like that I'm doing it. I care about this much, and I believe that it's important. Thank you guys for listening, and have a great one. Bye.